there's a specific kind of silence that happens right before something impossible occurs. You've heard it. 80,000 people holding their breath at the exact same second. And then the ball hits the net, and that silence turns into the loudest sound you've ever heard in your life. That's what this competition does better than anything else in sport. It doesn't just crown champions, it manufactures moments that shouldn't be possible. Teams down 4 goals finding a way back. Players producing something no one had ever seen a human body do before. Finals decided in the final 60 seconds of stoppage times. 10 moments, 1 list, and a number 1 so absurd it still doesn't feel real 2 decades later. Let's get into it. 10. Scholes versus Barcelona. We start with pure technique. Manchester United hosting Barcelona in the Champions League semi-final, and Paul Scholes, quiet, unassuming, never one for the spotlight, meets a looping cross with a volley that still doesn't look real in slow motion. The connection is perfect. The ball dips under the bar before the Barcelona goalkeeper can even react. Old Trafford erupts, and Scholes does what Scholes always did after a moment like that. Barely celebrates, jogs back to the halfway line like it was routine. That's exactly why this goal belongs on this list. It wasn't manufactured drama. It was a footballer doing something extraordinary and treating it like Tuesday training. Sometimes the loudest statements are the quietest ones. 9. Drogba versus Bayern. Munich 2012. Bayern Munich in their own stadium, in their own final, minutes from lifting the trophy on home soil. Chelsea are hanging on, and then in the 88th minute, Didier Drogba rises above the Bayern defense and powers a header into the net. It's not just the goal, it's the timing. It's the fact that Chelsea then go on to lose a man, concede a penalty in extra time, watch their goalkeeper make the save of his life, and somehow, Drogba is the one to step up and smash home the winning penalty in the shootout. 1 player, 2 decisive moments, 1 trophy on the opponent's own turf. That's not luck. That's a man refusing to let the story end any other way. 8. Lucas Moura versus Ajax. Tottenham Hotspur had never reached a Champions League final. Ajax, flying on the wings of Europe's most exciting young squad in years, were 3-0 up on aggregate and cruising. Then Lucas Moura happened. 2 goals inside the first half hour claw Spurs back into the tie. The clock ticks past 90 minutes. Ajax are still going through on away goals. And then, one final surge forward, the ball breaks to Moura on the edge of the box, and he buries it. Amsterdam goes silent. London goes insane. It remains one of the most complete individual comebacks a single player has ever produced in this competition. A hat trick that rewrote a club's entire history in the space of 45 minutes. 7. Ronaldo's bicycle kick versus Juventus. Some goals are about the scoreline. This one was about art. Cristiano Ronaldo, playing an away quarterfinal in Turin, meets a cross with his back to goal and unleashes a bicycle kick that climbs what feels like 10 feet in the air before crashing off the underside of the bar. What happens next is almost as remarkable as the goal itself. The Juventus supporters, the same fans watching their own team get beaten, rise to applaud him. Not because they wanted Real Madrid to win, because they just witnessed something that transcended the rivalry entirely. Within a year, Ronaldo was wearing Juventus black and white himself. Some say this exact moment is what convinced him a move to Turin made sense. A goal so good it rewrote a transfer. 6. Manchester United versus Bayern Munich, 1999. Barcelona, the Camp Nou, the 1999 final. Bayern Munich lead 1-0 deep into stoppage time and are already preparing to lift the trophy. Some accounts say the ribbons on the cup were being tied in Bayern's colors before the final whistle. Then Manchester United happen. A corner is half cleared. Teddy Sheringham prods it home to level the score. United barely have time to celebrate before the referee restarts play. Another corner, chaos in the box, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, on as a substitute, sticks out a boot and turns the ball in. 2 goals in 2 minutes of injury time. Bayern players sink to the turf, unable to process what just happened. It remains the single most stunning final minute swing in the history of a European final. A treble sealed in a stretch of football that still feels physically impossible. 5. Real Madrid versus Atletico Madrid, 2014. For a decade, Real Madrid had chased a 10th European title without success. La Décima had become almost a curse of a phrase around the club. In Lisbon, against their own city rivals Atletico Madrid, they trailed 1-0 deep into stoppage time, seconds from watching Atletico lift the trophy instead. Then Sergio Ramos rises for a corner and heads home an equalizer that instantly changes the entire complexion of the final. Atletico, physically and emotionally shattered, simply cannot recover. Real Madrid score 3 more in extra time and win 4-1. It's the ultimate example of a team refusing to accept the story that was being written for them, and a single header from a defender turning a decade of near misses into a legacy of dominance that would define the next several years of European football. 4. Manchester City versus Real Madrid 2022. By this point in the list, you'd think Real Madrid pulling off a miracle comeback wouldn't shock anyone anymore. And yet, the 2022 semi-final somehow topped what came before. Manchester City lead 5-3 on aggregate deep into the second leg at the Bernabeu, cruising toward a first ever Champions League final. Then, in the space of about 90 seconds, Rodrigo scores twice to level the tie. The Bernabeu, silent moments earlier, becomes an avalanche of noise. Extra time arrives, and Karim Benzema, the man having arguably the greatest individual season in the competition's modern history, converts a penalty to complete the turnaround. City, who had the tie won on paper, are left stunned on the pitch. Real Madrid go on to win the whole thing. Some fan bases call this the single most improbable comeback the competition has ever produced. 3. Barcelona 6-1 PSG 2017. Paris Saint-Germain arrive at the Camp Nou with a 4-0 first leg lead in their pocket. This tie is over. Everyone knows it, including PSG, who play with the freedom of a team that has already qualified. Barcelona have other ideas. 3 goals inside the game's first 50 minutes bring the aggregate score to life. PSG hit back with an away goal that should end any hope of a comeback mathematically. And then, in a spell of madness that football almost never produces, Barcelona score 3 more goals in the final 7 minutes. The last of them belongs to Sergio Roberto, sliding in at the back post in the 5th minute of stoppage time to complete an aggregate turnaround from 4 goals down. The broadcast commentary that night simply breaks down into disbelief. It's not just a comeback, it's widely considered the greatest single second half comeback the competition has ever seen. 2. Liverpool 4-0 Barcelona 2019. Liverpool travel to the Camp Nou for the first leg, missing their 2 most important attacking players, and lose 3-0. By every reasonable measure, the tie is finished before the second leg even begins. Anfield, though, doesn't deal in reasonable measures. Divock Origi scores early. Jorginho Wijnaldum comes off the bench and scores twice within 2 minutes to level the aggregate scoreline entirely. The stadium is somewhere between a football match and a religious experience at this point. Then comes the moment that elevates this comeback above almost anything else on this list. Trent Alexander-Arnold, noticing the Barcelona defense switched off at a corner, quickly rolls the ball to Origi, who slots home the 4th. It's not just brilliant football, it's one of the smartest single decisions ever made inside a football stadium, and it sends Liverpool to a final they'd go on to win. 1. Liverpool 3-3 AC Milan, Istanbul 2005. The single greatest final in the history of this competition, and arguably the greatest comeback in the history of team sport. AC Milan, one of the most complete squads Europe had ever assembled, lead Liverpool 3-0 at halftime. It isn't competitive, it isn't close. Liverpool players later admitted they walked into the locker room at the break already resigned to the scoreline. Then 6 minutes of the second half happen. Steven Gerrard heads in a goal that sparks belief. Vladimir Smicer strikes from distance almost immediately after, and then Xabi Alonso, after having his initial penalty saved, buries the rebound to complete an equalizer that no one inside that stadium, Milan players included, can process in real time. Extra time arrives with Milan still shell-shocked. Jerzy Dudek produces a string of saves that border on absurd, and when the match reaches penalties, Dudek's wobbling leg antics on the goal line rattle Milan's takers just enough. Liverpool win the shootout. They lift the trophy having been down 3 goals with 45 minutes to play. 10 moments, 10 reasons this competition means more than almost anything else in sport. Comebacks that shouldn't have happened. Goals that shouldn't have been possible. Nights that turned ordinary players into permanent legends. Which moment gets you the most? Drop it in the comments. And if you want part 2, hit subscribe because this list barely scratches the surface.